What were the negative aspects and were there any positive aspects to the French colonial rule?
Under the colonial rule, I was in my province, that is Nam Dinh, you know. It is a very crowded, overpopulated province and very poor province. In my province, we have a lot of people and very few land. So we must migrate, migrate outside the province. So in my province, we have a lot of people who work in the rubber plantation in South Vietnam, in Cambodia, or in New Caledonia. And from my youth, I have seen a lot of poverty in my province. And so there is people who are caught for military service, for the war, for instance, in the Second World War, or they must leave their home to work outside the province. It is abnormal for the Vietnamese to leave the home, the family, and to work outside the province. And we have unemployed in my province. So from the childhood, one of my concern is how to get employment. And we have 500,000 of people who will die in 45 from starvation. So you see, and in my province, it is the province who have the biggest number of people who were political prisoners. And since my childhood, I only seen these things. Of course, in between 1937 up to 1939. We have enjoyed some freedom, because in France they have popular front. So there is some importation of press and so on to my country. So we can see something about the world and so on. And
Well, why don't we just go on to the next point, which was you're joining the nationalist movement, and just one or two anecdotes about life in prison that you went through.
I was in jail when I was 18 years old. That means from 1940. So life is very hard for people, of course. But we try to improve our life. We make ourselves goods and so on, and to send to outside the prison. And in jail we have no book, no papers, and so on. But we can get it by illegal means, and we can publish inside the prison some journal, some review, and I was the people who draw to illustrate the papers, and really in jail it is a school for us. We can teach each other, and we can train militarily, so that outside the prison we could be a soldier.
Is there any particular incident that you experienced that dramatizes the nature of the resistance? Something that you...
Yeah. No problem with that. That was much.
Okay. Can you recall any specific incident that occurred to you during the resistance? When did it take place and where and what happened?
The hardest time is from 47 to 49.
Excuse me, you got to repeat the subject.
Yeah.
The hardest incident
Yes,
during the resistance.
During the resistance war against the French, the hardest time is from 47 to 49. I was commanding the headquarters of General Giap to retreat to avoid encirclement of French parachute troops in the fall of 47, and we were twice in encirclement, but we can break and to be in the safe place. But you know, it is the headquarters of General Giap. And during the French resistance, we have very hard time because the supply of food is very, very, very difficult. So for 1 year, we have only every day 2 bowls of rice. Now the ration now is very, very little. Even now, we have 6 bowls per day. But in that time, we have only 2 bowls of rice per day. And still in the jungle to fight against French.
Some historians have suggested that President Ho Chi Minh would have preferred to avoid violence and negotiate a settlement with the French. Do you agree with that thesis? Do you think, what was President Ho's strategy? Did he want to avoid violence? Was he? Philippe de Villers suggests he might have been another Gandhi. That he was. What is your view on that?
He would like to avoid the President Ho Chi Minh strategy. You know, he would like to avoid war and violence. It is his policy. But he was forced to go to war. Because, you know, from 45 up to 47, he had to try many times to have the negotiation settlement with France. But France had a very, very hard policy. That means by negotiation, they would like to re-establish colonial rule on our country. Even after during the war in 47, he had to try also to negotiate with France, but France had to deny the peaceful way for our country to gain independence.
Let's go up to the Geneva Conference of 1961 and 1962, which you attended. There were some observers who said that the model of neutrality for Laos could have been applied to South Vietnam. Could you discuss that?
The settlement of Laos question on the Geneva Conference in 61-62 really have set a model for the settlement of the South Vietnam question. Because, you know, the Liberation Front of South Vietnam have many times proposed some kind of Laos peaceful model for the South Vietnam. And the Americans have rejected it. And Prince Sihanouk also in that time have proposed some kind for not only for Laos, for South Vietnam and Cambodia too. And it was rejected by Americans.
So you think that you could have accepted a neutral South Vietnam?
Yes, that's so.
Could you repeat that?
We in that time the front have proposed some kind it looks like the model of Laos, and we have supported the Liberation Front of the South Vietnam.
Could you recall a little bit what it was like negotiating with Mr. Harriman, Averell Harriman, and the American delegation? What kind of impression did they make on you at the Geneva conference?
In that time, in the Geneva Conference in 61, 62 on Laos, through this conference, we would like to know what is the position of American on South Vietnam and on Cambodia and on Indochina as the whole. But by these contact and by this negotiation, we realize that United States would like only to neutralize Laos so that USA could concentrate their forces to destroy the revolution in South Vietnam and to destroy the neutrality of Cambodia.
Could you recall some? That's very good. You really are. Sam.
The same thing?
Yeah. Could you just make a statement saying that if
Yes,
in fact, I don't want to make the statement for you, but the position of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam in 1962 was that you favored a neutral South Vietnam.
Our position in 61, 62, and even up to 63, 64, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam are supporting the idea of neutralization of South Vietnam. And we are supporting in that time the policy of the Liberation Front in South Vietnam.
Let me just go on to the next. Go back for a moment to the 1962 conference. I just wondered if you had a few personal impressions of what it was like to negotiate with Mr. Harriman, since it's the first time you negotiated with an American. How was it? How was dealing with him personally?
Personally, we have very little contact with the USA delegation, because they would like to avoid any contact, any discussion on the matter concerned between the two countries. So our impression is they would like to show very flexible on Laos question, but very tough towards Vietnamese.
Why did you decide to enter into secret talks with Kissinger? Why did you decide that Le Duc Tho should enter into secret talks with Kissinger in addition to the negotiations then going on in Paris?
The Vietnamese government have decided to accept the secret talks because we see that the official one in the Kleber Avenue could not lead to the settlement, because there is a Thieu government there. And we think that the problem of South Vietnam or the Indo-Vietnam War could be settled only between USA and Vietnam.
But if I could just add a question to that particular one. What about the PRG delegation? Did they agree to have secret talks too?
Yes, because about the secret talks, the PRG and the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, we have a common line and we have a common interest. But the Thieu government, they would like to drag on the war and to have American troops in South Vietnam, and the Nixon government would like to withdraw. So there are contradictions, and it could not help the settlement with the presence of a Thieu government.
Could you describe the position of your government and the United States when the secret talks began? What were the two positions of the two sides?
When the secret talks begin, the U.S. position is to settle only the problem of military question and let the political problem settled by Vietnamese themselves. And on our side, we must link these two problems, the political and military one, first. Secondly, the USA's position is for mutual withdrawal. And we are for the foreign troops must be withdrawn. and the Vietnamese are on their soil, so they have the right to stay on. Thirdly, the USA position is the government of Thieu is the legal one. So the political solution in South Vietnam must be the acceptance of Thieu as a legal government, and the PRG must be dissolved and to be integrated within the constitution of a Thieu government. And the USA position on the matter of political issue is the Thieu government is a legal one, and the PRG must be dissolved and to be integrated within the framework of the constitution of a Thieu government. And our position is to dissolve the Thieu government and to have a coalition government. So there are a big gap between the two sides.
Now, at first you held that the military and political issues had to be linked, but then you changed your position later. Is that correct?
We have not changed completely.
You have to repeat.
At first we have linked the political and military issues on together, and USA would like to separate the two things. They would like only to deal with military aspect, but and further and step by step, we are stick on principle on the linkage of these matters. But in the political issue, we would like to have the principle. That means some principle and the concrete things would be settled by the South Vietnamese parties. So there is no leaving our position.
But you changed your position. You changed your demand that the Thieu regime be dissolved. Is that correct?
That is correct. But in the same time, we are.
Sorry, you have to say that.
Yeah. Some people say that we have changed our position. That means we have dropped our demand for the dissolution of Thieu government. It is not right, because we have asked also not dissolve the PRG. So the coexistence of two governments in South Vietnam, not only one. So that means that they have changed, and we have changed to have a common ground. That means to have two governments in South Vietnam.
Now, in the spring of 1969, Nixon proposed a ceasefire in place, and Kissinger says that represented an abandonment by the United States of its demand for mutual withdrawal. Is that the way you interpreted it? And if so, why didn't you accept the proposal in early 1969?
The proposal of Nixon in 1969 for ceasefire in place is not to drop the mutual withdrawal. It is not right. Because if you read in the memories of Kissinger, the White House years, you could recognize that all the talks, the secret talks afterward, after 69, from 1970 and up to 73, they always ask for the withdrawal of Vietnamese forces. Although they say that in principle the principle is not the same, but the fact that Vietnamese must withdraw their forces from South Vietnam. So the ceasefire 69 proposal of Nixon does not mean they have dropped the mutual withdrawal.
Well, at what point in the negotiations did the ceasefire become possible? What was the breakthrough point at which you began to reach an agreement?
The breakthrough point was in October 1972, from 8 October to 11 October. The ceasefire became possible. And in 8 October we have a new proposal. That is the American troops withdraw. Secondly, in South Vietnam there will be a National Council of Reconciliation and Concord, and to help the two parties in South Vietnam to make possible the elections, general elections, and to solve the political question in South Vietnam. And thirdly, the Vietnamese forces in South Vietnam must be settled by the South Vietnamese parties, and the ceasefire, and the last one is the release of prisoners, and to investigate for the MIA, you know.
And at that, sorry. At what point in the negotiations did the ceasefire become possible? What was the breakthrough, and who made what concessions on both sides?
The breakthrough point for the negotiation and leading to ceasefire, it was in the beginning of October 1972. On October the 8th, 72, Le Duc have put a very new proposal. That means we have dropped the demand for the dissolution of Thieu government, and we accepted that both governments in South Vietnam would coexist. In the meanwhile, we propose setting up of National Council of Reconciliation and Concord.
Again, please.
Again. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
The breakthrough point leading to ceasefire, it was in October 72. On the 8th October 72, Le Duc have made a proposal. In this proposal, we have dropped the demand for dissolution of Thieu government, and we propose to have that the two governments in South Vietnam coexist, and to set up a National Council for Reconciliation and Concord, so that they can help the two parties to settle the problem in political problem in South Vietnam, and to bring about the general elections. And the Vietnamese forces in South Vietnam must be settled between the South Vietnamese themselves. So this proposal have met the positive attitude from the response, positive response from Kissinger, and we have negotiated from 8 October to 11 October, and we can come to a conclusion that, broadly speaking, we have concluded the agreement.
Was at that stage that Kissinger dropped his demand that the North Vietnamese troops in the south have to be withdrawn?
In this breakthrough point, they have dropped officially, but they still insisted that there is some withdrawal, some symbolic withdrawal. It will be very welcome.
Excuse me, could I ask you to repeat that and say Kissinger dropped the demand?
Yes, in this time, that means from 8 to 11 October, Kissinger had dropped the demand for withdrawal of Vietnamese forces from South Vietnam. But he still insisted that some partial withdrawal. They have given the figure 2 divisions in the upper north of South Vietnam could be withdrawn. If would be withdrawn, it will be very welcome. But we are very strict in the principle that Vietnamese are masters of on the Vietnamese soil, and we have a right to stay everywhere in Vietnam.
And Kissinger accepted your refusal of that token withdrawal.
There is no answer, formal answer in this matter. But after they have accepted to initiate and to sign.
What was Kissinger's reaction to your refusal to withdraw 2 divisions?
To our refusal to withdraw the 2 divisions of North Vietnamese from South Vietnam, Kissinger, of course, could not say formally that the USA have dropped his demand, because up to after the Christmas bombing, they still rise again this question. In our thinking, first, why they are stick in this question? Because as long as the Vietnamese forces are still in South Vietnam, so there is less probability for the USA to maintain its influence in South Vietnam. Secondly, if we consider this principle, that means that the principle of unity of Vietnam is no more valuable. And we are stick on the principle that Vietnamese are masters on their soil, and we are free to stay anywhere in Vietnam as we like. And thirdly, we think that the USA would like to ask for withdrawal to have Thieu joining the agreement.
Let me ask you why, could you explain why you, Le Duc Tho, made a new proposal on October 8th? Now, one suggestion that's been made, Kissinger has made it, that Nixon's trips to China and the Soviet Union were a factor in your decision to make this new concession. Could you comment on that?
I think it's if you see that after the trip, Nixon trip to China, we have this could not shake our will, you know, and we have launched the spring offensive, and we have consolidated our position after the spring offensive. And that means the trip of Nixon in Peking could not force us to put concessions. After only the consolidation of our position militarily and politically, we have put this proposal.
Could you comment on your feelings about Nixon's trip to Moscow in May of '72?
Yes, there was the trip of Nixon in Moscow. But the trip of Nixon in Moscow is very different from the trip of Nixon to Peking. Because Peking after the trip of Kissinger to Peking in July 1971, we have realized very clearly that China had betrayed Vietnam very, very clearly. But the trip of Nixon to Moscow, you can see it in the memories of Nixon and other journalists who had reported on this trip that Brezhnev and the Soviet Union have supported very strongly our position. This is quite different of the visit of Nixon to Peking.
Could you be... Could you be a little more precise about how the Chinese changed their position after Kissinger's trip in July of 1971? Did they stop sending aid, or did they put pressure on you to negotiate? Could you go into more detail on that? On the support of China to our struggle, I must say that we have realized that by step, they have reduced their support. And on 71, we see that it is a turning point. It is not only to reduce aid, but it is a betrayal. From 1958, we have seen that they did not support our armed struggle. They advise us only political struggle, not armed struggle. And in 64, they have advised us to not to receive aid from Soviet Union and to receive only aid from China. And we see that they would like to monopolize to have our struggle on their hands only, you know. And in 1966, we would like to have negotiation and at the same time fighting. And they say that only fighting, not negotiation. So in that time, Taylor was very right to say that the Chinese are determined to fight the USA up to the last Vietnamese. And in 71, after the visit of Kissinger, they advised us to accept the position of USA. So we see that it is how to say, a very absolutely, it is a betrayal. To go back to the scenario of the negotiations, could you explain why you decided to make the draft agreement public on October 25th, 1972? Because we have make public the draft agreement on the 25th October 1972, because on the 20th October, Kissinger have promised to initiate this agreement in Hanoi. But in the 23rd, Kissinger have asked Vietnamese to have another round of negotiation to finalize the agreement. So we see that it is a kind of revise the agreement and to drag on the negotiation after the election. We realize it. So we make it public so to inform the opinion, the trick of USA in the negotiation, and to put them on facing many options, whether to say that it is not agreement, so, or to say that it is agreement and they would like to put some amendment, to reject it or to accept it before the opinion, before the election.
So it is to have to force the USA to have official attitude towards this agreement.
Kissinger says.
445.
Why did you make the draft agreement public on October 25th?
We have made public the draft agreement on the 25th October because we would like to inform the public, the international opinion, world opinion, that the agreement was agreed upon between the two parties. And now they would like to, whether they would like to tear it, or to accept it, or to revise it. It is now the USA must make their statement, their attitude towards whether it is to tear it, or to accept it, or to revise it. And in our way thinking, we think that they would like to revise it after the election. They would like to change substantially the agreement after the election. Because in 23rd, they have not put some date for meeting again between Le Duc and Kissinger. So we think that they would like to drag on and to put the meeting only after the election.
Just to go back to one point, the meeting between the 8th of October and the 11th of October, when Kissinger asked for a symbolic withdrawal of Vietnamese troops, do you think that he was looking for some way to save his own face, but that he really basically accepted your position, that he accepted the reality of the situation, but he was just looking for a face-saving device?
Between the 8th October to 11th October, when Kissinger asked for symbolic withdrawal of North Vietnamese forces, and in that time they have not they have not yet dropped, and they have not yet accepted our position, but the agreement is there. But afterward, if you follow the step by step, the negotiation up to the signature, you will see that this question come again and again in the negotiation. So I think it is not a question of face saving, but it is a question of to maintain some balance of forces in South Vietnam or not.
Kissinger says that when he made his speech of October 26th, 1972, saying peace is at hand, that speech was designed to reassure you that the United States still wanted the agreement despite the opposition of Thieu. How did you interpret the speech?
I think the speech of Kissinger in that time, peace at hand, is first at all for the electors, for the voters in the United States, to say to them that the Vietnam question is no more. There is no more Vietnam question. So they can elect Nixon as a hero for peace, you know. So I think it is the first. Secondly, I think this also to some kind to reassure us not to give some trouble for them during the elections, perhaps. So I think peace at hand, this word only to escape the elections. Because, you know, after the election, they have caused many trouble to my country, to many crimes against my people.
Well, I wonder if we can go on now to the period after the American election. Could you describe, somewhat briefly, what happened between that period and the Christmas bombing, and why you think Nixon ordered the Christmas bombing?
I think the Christmas bombing is it was very criticized all over the world. And if you see the effectiveness of the Christmas bombing on the agreement, you could see there is no change or a big change, substantial change, only wording or some minor change. This could not be explained by the result of the agreement. First. Secondly, the bombing could not shake our will. So what is the objective of the bombing? The objective of bombing, in our opinion, is to destroy Vietnam before signature. Because destroying Vietnam, it is equivalent. No? It has the same value as to withdraw the North Vietnamese forces from South Vietnam. This is a potential to maintain a decent interval in South Vietnam. And secondly, we think this also to show to Vietnamese that if the agreement would be violated, the USA could intervene, as they have done. And perhaps there is another interest in the bombing, is to show to Thieu government the USA are always with Thieu.
You watched the way Kissinger negotiated. As a diplomat yourself, how would you describe his style of negotiation on a personal basis?
I must say that I appreciate very much his intelligence. About the style of Kissinger in the negotiation, I think we must say that he has a great intelligence. But one thing is not very intelligent, because he is believing on trick and lies and Machiavellic means to achieve his end. So he has no knowledge about his interlocutors, that is Vietnamese, because we have experiences 3 times a negotiation with USA, so we have experiences.
Let me ask you a question that's not on the
Yeah.
list. But
You have lost a question.
I'm going to get to that. Could you go back over this Kissinger's
About the style of Kissinger in the negotiation, I can say that he is very intelligent. But at the same time, he is not so intelligent because he is believing on trick, lies, and Machiavellic means to achieve his ends. And for instance, one story. After the Christmas bombing, the first day that Le Duc and Kissinger had to meet in Paris, after shaking hands, Kissinger had told Le Duc that I am very sorry, I could not prevent the decision of President of bombing up to North Vietnam in Christmas Day. So the Le Duc said that I know who are responsible. All you are responsible, and you are criminals. And this, I have, lastly, I have read the book of Handerman on the end of power. It is same lying, because after the Christmas bombing, in the Washington Post, there is a news that it is a Nixon decision, and Kissinger has a divergence in this matter. And Nixon was very angry, and he had to ask Hanneman to check up who had briefed this thing. And Washington Post said that it is Kissinger. And Kissinger had suggested to Nixon to bomb also. So it is lying, you see. So it is, he could deceive some people, and for some time, but not all people and not all the time.
Let me just add a question.
Yes. Yeah.
Perhaps you'd like to answer it. From your point of view, as you watched politics in the United States, to what degree do you think the Watergate scandals had an effect on American policy towards Vietnam?
Really, I have not a very assessment on this matter. Really, on the impact of Watergate on Vietnam question, we think certainly there is some impact, but the biggest things is after the signature of Paris Agreement. We see that USA has no more interest to intervene again in Vietnam, because it is the great this conflict had have a great impact inside America and outside America. And I think Watergate, to some extent, is a byproduct of Vietnamese American war in Vietnam, and not the Watergate has a great impact on Vietnam. Perhaps there is some reaction, of course.
Let's go to this last point about, if you look back on the lost occasions, I wonder if you could describe some of those lost occasions when a settlement could have been reached.
If we look back into the past, I could not say now there are many lost occasions, because now we can put some hypothetical guessing or some hypothetical assessment only. We think that if we consider the agreement signed in January 73, the outcome, and this, I think, if the Americans could accept this agreement, they could have better terms in 1960 and or 61, 62, and on 1969 they can have better terms. Why? Because in 1960, 61, 62 or 63, the South Vietnam Liberation Front have declared that they would like to have independent South Vietnam and neutral and independent South Vietnam. So it is not the same as the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is the unity. We stress on unity. But in 60, 61, 62 or 63, this is neutralization and independence of South Vietnam. Of course, they have said that our long-term objective is for unity. But the independence is there. But in the Paris Agreement, there is any word on independence of South Vietnam. Only self-determination. So in 69 and 70, we have proposed a coalition government, coalition government. And in that time, after the Tet Offensive, the Sphinx, the Phoenix operation have wiped out many of
Yeah, we just got to get 1969 and
Yeah.
then do it as a separate piece.
Huh?
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. In 1969, after the Tet Offensive, the Phoenix operation have done very many crimes, and many of our bases in South Vietnam were wiped out. I know many of our army must be in the Cambodian frontier. So if they accepted the coalition government, that means we have no force to support it. Well, not very strong. But in 1972, we are very strong. So if we have a coalition government, it is okay, but we don't need it. We need only the coexistence of two governments, and very loose on the head. It is okay. But if we have a coalition government in 1969 and 70, you see, we are weak. So it is very bad for us. But one thing, why the USA have lost this occasion? Because they would like to have a total victory. Total victory. And when they could not realize their total victory, after defeat, they accept a term which are not as good as in 1960 and 1970. That's my opinion.
Could you go back and tell us a little bit about your family and your father and your own childhood recollections?
My father was a peasant, very poor peasant, and after sometimes they could not pay the tax or the fees to the landlords, you know. So he had lost his land, and he must go to work in the mine for tin, you know, very that is not good for the hand, you know. And for myself, in my childhood, one biggest worry of myself is unemployment, because in my province there is a lot of unemployment, and in my village the people are very poor. You know, we have no brick housing, and in bamboo housing, in bamboo and so on only. And all the village we have only one bicycle. It is the mayor of the village. And my dream all the time is how to get money to have a bicycle, because it is very wonderful to ride bicycle. And when I was engaged in the revolutionary work, I never thought that my country will be independent. I thought that all my life would be in the jail or in the échafaud. I don't know what is guillotine, in the guillotine. And we could not, or perhaps the next generation could have independence. So when we have independence, it looks like a dream, you know. And when I was in New York to speak in the United Nations General Assembly, it is like a dream for me, because I never thought during my childhood. So some people, some journalists have asked me, your country, your people have endured, have suffered so much sacrifice, and now you would like to force your people to accept more sacrifice. When you will stop to force them to accept this sacrifice? I have told them, you don't know. look at my village, for instance. When I was young, they have no brick housing, only bamboo, and now they have all the brick housing. And in my village now, not only the mayor have a bicycle, but all the villages they have bicycle, and not only one, 2 or 3. And some people they don't know to ride, but they buy bicycle and for their children afterward, you know. So the life now is much more better than before. So they could accept more sacrifice to defend the acquisition, the victories, the success, and the revolution have given to them now. So if we have only sacrifice, we have nothing to gain. So we could not ask them to sacrifice. So they have more gain than sacrifice.